So welcome to negative list and mega exemption. So at the outset, let me tell you this negative list. Knowledge of the negative list is highly essential because as per section 66B, service tax is levied when service has been provided in taxable territory, right? What is the service? Definition has been given already. Section 65B, 44. Read with declared services under section 66E. But these services are subject to negative list. Means if that particular service happens to fall under negative list, there will be no levy, right? So then, first of all, we have to see what is a negative list. And what is the next step? Once it is there in the negative list, nothing to consider further, nothing to move further because no service tax is leviable. Suppose it is there, it is not there in the negative list, then you have to move ahead to check up whether it is under mega exemption or not. If it is not there, move ahead. Whether it is covered under partial exemption scheme, that is abatement. Then there was a levy, some tax is payable, but at a reduced rate or at a reduced amount. You can say abatement, right? You see, the scheme of service tax lies here. Scheme, service, yes. Okay, whether there is service, we have to answer that. So what is service here? Here service means service under section 65B 44. So service as per the definition, and also of course services covered under section 66E, that is declared services. Okay, now you got it. So whether it is service or not, that is the first test. Yes. And then whether it is falling under negative list or not, that is another test. So in negative list, if it is in negative list, there is no need to consider. If it is not in the negative list, then move ahead. Suppose you have to see service. For this you got the answer yes. Okay, and then what is that you have to see next? So you make sure that it is not in the negative list. Not in negative list. And there is a service and which is not in the negative list. To ensure that it is not in the negative list, what is it that you have to see? You have to verify the 16 services specified under section 66D. There were 17 services earlier. Now one service has been omitted, deleted, that is relating to events, amusement, entertainment events, etc. Under section 66D is J. So now only 16 services. You have to check up whether it is falling under 66D or not. If it is under 66D, no need to move ahead. But it is not in negative list. Then you have to ensure that the service has been provided in taxable territory. So you have to check up taxable territory, whether the service has been provided in taxable territory. You know what is taxable territory. You look at section 65B, I think clause 52, the territory to which the provisions of service tax are applicable. That is the definition of taxable territory. The provisions of the Finance Act are applicable. What is the territory to which it is applicable? Section 64. Section 64 is very clear. It says this act is applicable all over India except the state of Jammu and Kashmir, which means taxable territory means India minus Jammu and Kashmir. So in taxable territory, you got yes. Then there is levy. Then it is subject to levy. Next question is, simply because there is a charge, it doesn't mean that you have to pay tax. Taxability and tax liability are not same. Here, because it is a service not in negative list provided in taxable territory, it became taxable, chargeable. But ultimately, what about tax liability? Taxability and tax liability are not same. Tax liability, whether tax liability is there, for that you have to see whether it is in the mega exemption list or not. So check up. Then you have to check up whether in mega exemption suppose here also it is no, it is not in the mega exemption list, so it is chargeable and also tax payable. Some tax, service tax is payable, tax liability is fixed here, lekin whether it is payable in full or partial, for that you check up whether it is under abatement scheme. So abatement scheme, what do you mean by abatement scheme here? Abatement scheme means partial exemption. So suppose here it is no again, so then it becomes not only taxable but fully taxable, say 14% fully taxable. So first of all we have to check up leviability, next tax liability, then whether it is total or partial you have to check up. This service becomes fully taxable here if it is not in the negative list, if it is not falling under mega exemption or abatement scheme. So for negative list you have to look into section 66D, and for taxable territory you have to look into place of provision of service rules under section 66C, determination of location. This will tell you. And then there is a levy. And then mega exemption, whether it is falling under mega exemption or not, how do you find out? Okay, how do you find out? For that you have to look into notification number 25/2012 with amendments, because changes will take place, because it is through an exemption notification. Notification is an instrument in the hands of the government. Government can change n number of times. It's very easy for government to do that. If it is to be done through parliamentary process, it may take time, but if it is in the government's hands, takes no time. So mega exemption. And similarly for abatement scheme, what you have to see is notification number 26/2012. This is the basic fundamental idea. Okay, so far this is this way. And of course there can be other exemption notifications also you have to check out. For example, foreign diplomatic missions which provide some services, they are in the negative list. But what about the services that they receive, if they happen to receive, that you have to check up through mega exemption. And sometimes a particular service is taxable not in mega exemption, because mega exemption means fully exempt. Not in mega exemption means taxable and tax liability is there, but if it falls under abatement scheme, some reduction is there. So taxable value is reduced by the percentage of abatement. So like this we have to see now. So what is it that we have to look into? We have already seen these things like place of provision of services rules, etc. We have to see the scheme as a whole. what is there in the negative list, what is the scope of the entries in the negative list, and what is the scope of entries in the mega exemption scheme, and mainly the subject lies here. From the examination point of view, negative listed services are very, very important because you get practical questions, and also you should have the knowledge of mega exemption. In mega negative list only there are 16 services, but what about mega exemption? There are as many as 47 entries, 47 entries. Should you mug up? No, not necessarily, but you read and continue to read. You enjoy it. I will give you the planning. I will explain things in such a way that you don't find it boring, or rather, you will find it interesting. Because you should know how to relate and correlate. If you are able to do that, you will find it interesting, and naturally, you feel like reading again and again. Okay, so this is the here we are, and now we start with negative list under section 66D. Okay, so come on, section 66D. Section 66D. Section 66D. Right. How many services are there? Earlier there were 17 services, now 16 services. So what is it that I do? First, the concept. Concept wise I have already given a clue, but I would like to explain the concept a little in detail, so that you find it rather more interesting. Why the lawmakers have given negative list? Because they wanted to tax all activities, all types of activities. They want to collect service tax, because every activity is a service, right? If it is for consideration. Now, what is the purpose or what is the object of introducing the negative list? The object of introducing the negative list is to exclude certain services from the purview of the service. Means, though by definition they are services, government does not want to collect tax on them, does not want to even charge tax, even at the charge level. They don't want to charge at all. Collection, it's a far away thing. Why? Why government doesn't want to collect, doesn't want to impose or levy tax on these services? Reason number one. The logic is, number one, government's sovereign functions. Sovereign functions of the government. I'm only giving you the base, but government need not have its base on this. Still it can collect tax. Nobody can stop it. But normally government thought on sovereign functions there should not be anything like tax. What do you mean by sovereign functions? Functions which only a public authority, not private parties, can do. But nowadays the concept is very much diluted, because so many functions are being done by private parties, private people, because more privatization and more capitalistic approach. So for example, army, navy, air force, it's a sovereign function. Issuing passports. So somebody is willing to go outside India, so it's a serious matter. Somebody is coming from outside India. So some foreign affairs, they are involved. Police, revenue departments, police department, or like army, navy, etc. passport, etc. There are certain areas functionally only government is functioning in them and private parties are not there, are not expected to be there. So they don't want to collect tax, they don't want to charge at all. So for this purpose, what they have done, sovereign functions or say special status. So there are certain categories of persons who have special status. See, special status. So what do you mean by special status here? If you read together these two and compare this, find this with the list, you see government and local authority like municipality, panchayat, etc., local authorities, and RBI, Reserve Bank of India. In fact, Reserve Bank of India is not government; it's a body corporate, is an independent body corporate. Though it is it's a very important organ of central government, but it has its independent status. So you can't call it government. So we are putting this under negative list under a separate heading, not mixed up with the government. And similarly, foreign diplomatic missions. If you look at them, they have special status and their functions shall not be taxed. Government has decided, it's only a decision, so it is convenient for the government that it thought that they don't want to charge any tax on the functions or activities conducted by or undertaken by these persons, say government, local authority, Reserve Bank of India, foreign diplomatic missions. You find them. Say for example, for government, it is under clause A, they started with that A, and RBI, B, they are in series. So government has given priority to this. That's the reason why under clause A, it is government services provided by government or local authorities, and B, it is RBI, and C, it is foreign diplomatic missions. Foreign diplomatic missions means embassies, foreign embassies, American embassy, British embassy, etc. They are very important persons, VIP. They have special status. They are privileged people. So they have certain privileges. So government doesn't want to touch them. So no service tax on their activities. So sovereign functions of the public authorities, say government, and special status that prompted the government to keep them out of service tax. And similarly, you see public interest. Public interest demands so public interest demands that certain services should not be touched upon, and it will be risky for the democratic government also, because in a democracy every 5 years at least they have to go before the public to seek vote, but public have their own ways of rejecting. So say for example, renting of immovable property for residential purpose. So somebody is taking property, using property by paying rent. So you want to collect a tax on them? You can't imagine what happens. The repercussions or retaliation from the public will be very severe, very serious, and sure that party will not get the votes next time. People will not excuse you because already they are overburdened with a lot of taxes beyond their capacity. So many people in India, of course in developing countries, they are paying taxes, more taxes beyond their capacity. So there is a big sacrifice and the public will not spare you. And government knows that. Government knows the pulse. It can't afford to impose taxes on certain such activities. So renting of immovable property for residential purpose is one among them. So this is under clause M, Makan. Okay, and similarly the activities. So day-to-day activities, financial transactions. People, there is a banking system. People have a system of saving, and the government also wants to encourage saving. So bankers, invariably, nobody wants to keep money with him unless it is a black money. So banking transactions, you are depositing money or you are withdrawing money, like that. Day-to-day general transactions are there. So if you impose taxes on those transactions, people don't go to banks, they don't deposit, they don't withdraw. There would be a confusion and chaos, and there would be a lot of inconvenience. So public interest demands that such services should not be taxed. Right? So that is the reason why banking services, banking and financial services, which are normal, routine, money transactions. Even government is very particular about the definition of service. You see, transaction only in money or actionable claims, they are not service. Why? Because by nature, by their nature, the public interest demands that such activities should not be taxed. So, public interest, in the name of public interest, something like renting activity or banking activity, banking, financial activities. So, banking, financial activities under N, clause N, Nakat. Nakat means N, money transactions under clause N. This is a part of public interest transactions. Maybe I think I should give you the list first. So, what are the transactions? What are the services which are non-taxable? What are the 16 services? Anyway, but you are getting into this. So, like this, public interest. Under this public interest, transportation services also fall. Public transport. See, public transport, suppose somebody is getting into a bus and is paying some amount towards the ticket, say 5 rupees. Nowadays, below 5 rupees hardly is there. So 2 rupees, 5 rupees, whatever it is. So on that you want to collect service tax. How it would be? Very dangerous. So public transport, you can say, public transport may be of goods or maybe of passengers. Transport of passengers and transport of goods. So if you impose service tax on transport of goods, already because of transport from one place to another place, the goods become expensive, and if you collect tax also on that, they will be overburdened. So goods and persons transportation, to a large extent, to the extent possible, at least to save the cost of the middleman, say cost of the average families, say poor families, average families, middle order families, middle class families, or a little upper middle class families. So it is necessary in the public interest to not to impose tax on transportation. So that's the reason why on public transportation they have mostly granted. So they have mostly put under negative list, and some of them have been put under mega exemption also. Primarily, basically, on public transport, it is based on public interest, right? So public interest, public transport regarding goods and passengers. Okay, regarding goods and passengers, these are under O, clause O and clause P. A, B, C, N, M, N, O, P, like this. Okay. So public interest is a very, very important criteria. And similarly, there are certain areas under public interest. You can also bring things like education, educational services, say up to 12th class, higher secondary school. So the government does not want to touch, no tax, nothing, whatever be the activity, all activities concerning higher education, secondary higher education up to 12th class, 11th and 12th, up to 12th. No service tax. So it's a public interest. Also, partly because it's a state subject. And what about electricity? You know, in the name of electricity, reduction in electricity charges, reduction in water charges. In the name of reduction, people are getting votes and they are getting bumper majorities. They are ruling the states. Because public pulse, public wants that, public is feeling the pinch of electricity charges, public is feeling the pinch of water charges in urban areas, in particular urban pockets. In urban pockets in particular, water you have to buy, and that is one of the expensive things for a middle class and lower middle class family. So in India, highest number of families are middle class families. Highest number. Largest chunk is middle class, and it is the middle class which consumes most what all goods and services. Consumption hub. So government can't take risk. So education, certain education services. So for the education services and also for electricity. So electricity, even no excise duty on electricity generation. Electricity is produced, it is accessible. Of course, it is there in the Tariff Act, but blank means no levy. No excise duty, and their distribution is an activity, generation is a manufacturing activity, and distribution or transmission is an activity worth called service, but government does not want to collect any service tax on that. So electricity and education, these are also in the name of public interest, you can say. So electricity, it is kilowatts. Just to remember, K stands for kilowatts and it is electricity. So 66D clause K deals with electricity, which is in the negative list, and education. So educational services under, they are learning process. So it is under clause L. 66DL puts the educational services under negative list. What are the education services that has been given? We have to go in detail. Just I am giving you overview. So then we will go in detail. So then this is a story in the public interest. And there is another story also. This is to avoid double taxation. Double taxation is also in the public interest. Under public interest, everything can be put, everything can be discussed. But subdividing these things and see double taxation. So, what do you mean by double taxation? Actually, one transaction or one thing, and you are taxing twice. It is too much. Same transaction, if it is taxed twice, maybe you heard of this, once bitten, twice shy. I write here. Once bitten, twice shy. I replace this word. Public reaction is very severe. It is not shy. Very violent reaction will be there. Once bitten, twice reacting. Public will be reacting doubly. How? For example, state government is already collecting tax, and central government also wants to collect tax on the same thing. Of course, it is doing to some extent, but government wants to avoid double taxation. It is simply incurring the wrath of the public. Finally, the parties have to get the votes of the public, because we are in a thanks to the democratic system. At least there is a fear. Otherwise, the government would have been more aggressive. Already, it is aggressive in tax collections, tax impositions. So here, education, electricity, and also to avoid double taxation. How already state government is collecting taxes. A particular subject is a state subject. When it is a state subject under Constitution of India, that is list number 2, in 7th schedule to Article 246 of the Constitution. When a particular subject is under state list, why central government picks it up and collects, imposes taxes? That is not advisable. That is not a healthy practice in a, what we can say, federal structure like India. India is a federal structure and states are autonomous. We have given certain subjects for the purview, for the control and monitoring of the states, and state governments have power to impose taxes, and state governments have power to do everything that is necessary. And simply you want to simply meddle with and you want to collect taxes means it is too much. In that list you find something like lottery, gambling, speculation activity like this. Okay? But betting, is it that central government is not interfering? Yes, to some extent it is doing. In lottery, they have seen. So selling, organizing activity, it is like an agency service. Somebody is selling tickets on commission basis, somebody is organizing all these things. They have seen it is agency services. That agency portion falls under service tax, so we want to collect service tax on that. Lottery activity as a whole is in the negative list, but to ensure the activity, whatever collateral, you can say, ancillary services, associated activities of selling, organizing, marketing, etc., that activity is considered as an agency service. On that they want to collect service tax. Otherwise, lottery, no, it's a state subject. Gambling is a state subject. Betting is a state subject. That is the reason why they have not considered for service tax, so they are put under the negative list. So that way, if you see lottery, gambling and betting, so this has been under the negative list under, say, clause I, because it's a state subject. Earlier, amusement, entertainment, etc. under J, clause J, entertainment events, amusements, etc. But they thought they cannot be and should not be so liberal. Now they have removed this from the negative list. Only a few entries have been, few activities have been put under the mega exemption, and the rest of the activity relating to events, amusements, entertainment programs, etc., they want to collect service tax also, even though it's under state subject. It can encroach upon, it has been doing. So this J is no more under the negative list, only to the extent that has been provided under the mega exemption. Say, look at entry number 16, 16, 45, 46 and 47. That's it. The rest is taxable under service tax also. And similarly, if you look at manufacturing activity, or if you look at trading activity, buying and selling. So manufacture, it is normally subject under central excise or state excise, right? So under entry F, clause F, they have excluded this from levy. But of course, recently, alcohol for human consumption. So state excise is imposed on alcohol, potable liquor, alcohol for human consumption, but still central government wants to impose service tax on alcohol for liquor for human consumption. Manufacture of alcohol also, because manufacturing is also an activity, and consequently job work under entry number 30 clause C of mega exemption. Even if somebody is involved in job work of alcohol production, etc., that also is taxable now. But the rest mostly manufacturing activity, because it is in order to see that there is no double taxation, manufacturing activity was kept out of service tax. So it is in negative list. Similarly, trading activity. On trading activity, sales tax is payable. If it is a local sale, VAT is payable normally. If it is an interstate sale, CST is payable. You are getting? So then they don't want. The manufacturing activities, similarly trading activity is also. E. See, why government is putting certain services under negative list? Logic is this. And similarly, you see, other reasons also you'll find, like state subject. This is a big reason. Double taxation and state subject you can read together also. Anything which is a state subject, normally central government does not want to touch. Say agriculture is a state subject. So agriculture is a state subject, and even income tax. Even income tax is not aggressive on agriculture. Central government does not want to collect income tax on agricultural activity, agricultural profits, because it's a state subject, state subject, and also public interest. It's a serious matter. So agriculture has been kept out of negative list, but not the entire thing. There are certain areas which are taxable, otherwise non-taxable. So at least some portion, major portion is there under the negative list. It has been given under D. Negative list, clause D. State agriculture. And similarly, look at advertisement. Advertisement is also state subject, but still to some extent in the interest of the public they want to avoid, but in the interest of the public they want to collect also tax. Recently, all types of advertisements have been made taxable except newsprint, that is print media, say newspapers and magazines. Even out of these magazines, yellow pages, business directories, they are kept out of that. So on business directories and yellow pages means that is taxable. Other than business directories or yellow pages, etc., you enjoy this under negative list. So because these are state subjects, central government normally wants to be liberal and it doesn't want to collect service tax that way. Okay, why government has been giving relaxations? These are some of the considerations, main considerations. These are some of the main considerations. And of course, last but not least, I should also talk about remaining things. Say for example, toll charges. Toll charges are already overburdened. So toll charge is a painful job. Say you are passing through, you are traveling from one end to another end on a highway, and they stop there. They are actually there is a loss of time. There is a delay in your journey, in your travel. Toll tax is collected. Toll charges are collected. So 10 rupees, 20 rupees, 30, 40, something like that. So interestingly, between one simple example, between Delhi and Jaipur, Jaipur is the state capital of Rajasthan, Delhi is the state capital of Delhi. Delhi to Jaipur, it is around 250 kilometers. Maybe you are also aware. So the highway between Delhi and Jaipur, it is around 250 kilometers, 250. And in the 250 kilometers length of journey, there are 3-4 toll tax points, and around 400 rupees, 3 to 400 rupees one has to spend, one has to pay there. Suppose you are going by a four-wheeler, around 350-400 rupees you are paying there simply to cross. It is like a charge for 250 kilometers. The bus charge, transportation charges will not be more than that. So already heavy. But on that, government wants to collect service tax, it is too much. So it put it under negative list. It is partly because it's a state subject, partly because public interest demands, and also partly because it is too much. So under say H, clause H, the toll charges have been put under negative list. Of course, last but not least, very important, whether important or unimportant, that is funeral services. Funeral services means once somebody dies, after that whatever services are provided to the dead body or in relation to dead body, all are under the negative list. Suppose somebody is very serious, he is taken to the hospital. Of course, he is alive, expectedly. Supposedly he is alive and he is being taken to hospital. If he is carried through ambulances, of course, ambulance services, whoever is providing, all ambulance services are under mega exemption, not negative, but mega exemption is there, but exemption is there. But suppose it is not that way. Suppose we are using a radio taxi, that is taxable because that fellow is not dead, he is alive. But in the hospital, whatever happened, he is no more and he is dead in the hospital. And from the hospital, the person is being carried to some other place, saved by the same transport conveyance like radio taxi. So radio taxi services are taxable. So, but the radio taxi this time is carrying dead body, no service tax. So after death, whatever be the services are provided, funeral services, transport services, etc., everything that is free, means it is under the negative list. Till death, whatever be the services are there, they are not covered under this. That is last but not least, that is under Q. So this can also be got under public interest. Maybe government is afraid. There is a saying in English, the Hindi, मरता क्या ना करता, मरता क्या ना करता. शायद government, maybe government is afraid. So if you look at this A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, K, L, M, N, O, P, Q, these are the negative list. Out of this, J is no more, removed. See here, A, B, C. Here it is A, it is B, it is C, and here it is D, and E, and it is F, and it is G, seventh one, and it is, let me change the color so that it will be visible. See, it is seventh one G, H, 8, I, betting gambling, 9, and 10. 10th one J, it is no more, removed, and K, kilowatt, electricity, 11, and education services, learning, L, 12, and MNOPQ. M means Makan, house, that is 13. N, Nakat, banking, financial services, 14. And 15th one, 16th one. See, transportation. So look at the transportation. Where is the transportation here? Public transportation. And 15 and 16. Transport of goods and transport of passengers. So 16 services, and last but not least, funeral services, 17. You got it? So how to learn, whether we have to remember, sorry. At final level, it is not easy. It is not digestible. We can't digest the idea that we should mug up. But we have to find out some ways and means to retain in our memory, learn. And somehow we should be in a position to retain and reproduce. See, these are the 17 services under negative list. Now, actually, what I would like to do is, I would like to give you first this way. Maybe you will not be able to retain. But anyway, the determinants, why, what are the reasons behind government having this negative list. You see, sovereign functions, because they are sovereign functions, government, etc., special status category. We have seen foreign diplomatic missions, RBI, etc., RBI and government, central, local authority. And public interest is a very predominant factor. On the basis of public interest also they have put so many services under the negative list for fear of offending the public, you can say. For fear of incurring the wrath of public, which will be very expensive, particularly for elections. If you want to get elected again, you have to do everything that is necessary, and public, they are not foolish. You can't fool them always. Once you can do. So to avoid double taxation and items which are under state subject necessary. So like this, on various considerations, the negative list has been prepared. So then I'll put them in some other mode so that we'll be in a position to remember and also retain, so that we will be in a position to reproduce. See, negative list. So it is in red, section 66D. So for that good morning, I simply put it like this, GM. GM is good morning. It is a shortcut method, nowadays WhatsApp. So it's a WhatsApp language or message language. So GM is good morning. So here G stands for government services. This is under A, 66DA, and M stands for manufacture. So we have finished. Manufacture is under clause F. Maybe you remember, under central excise, manufacture has been defined under section 2 clause F, and here also for manufacture negative list it is F, clause F. Try to relate and it is easy to remember. So good morning, we started with good morning, negative list, 2 categories, 2 services we have identified in good morning. Government means and includes, of course, here government includes local authority. So government or local authority, I simply put it G, and M for manufacture. So there are 2 services we have got, and what else left? Only 14 services that we have to remember, right? So what are the 14 services? I'll put like this: B, A, R, F. And again I repeat, if I put it like this, of course, this is not a season virtually. GM, good morning, barf, not barfi. Okay, barf. So in this we got 4 plus 4, 8 entries, 8 services. So 2 plus 8, 10, we got it. Then only thing is we have to find out what is this B about. First high profile birth and next low profile birth. So in the high profile birth, B stands for banking or financial services. Can you recall the clause for this under 66D? Yes. Nakad. Banking means nakad. Nakad means cash, money. So it is under entry N. So A stands for advertisements. Advertisements under G. Okay. R stands for RBI, Reserve Bank of India. This is under B. B means banker, banker's banker. RBI is a banker's banker, so denoted by B. And F, it is foreign diplomatic missions, foreign embassies. So these are under C, consulars, consul offices. NGBC, of course, BURF, first category BURF here means banking, advertisement, RBI and FDM, foreign diplomatic missions. And another BURF here is low profile BURF. So here B stands for betting, gambling, etc. And this is denoted, this is under I. Okay. And A here stands for agriculture. So this agriculture is same. This is under D, clause D. And this one R stands for renting, makan. So it is under M. And F, funeral. Assume that somebody, an agriculturist, indulged in betting, lost everything, and he had to settle with rented property. He has to use rented property, and finally he succumbed to his poverty, funeral. So what happened to the agriculturist who indulged in betting? Finally funeral. He had to move to a rented house, and then finally he has to khudkushi. So birth. So 8 services we got, and for funeral it is Q. So 2 plus 8, 10 services we have got already. And what about the remaining services? 6 services. E2 and T4. So 2 plus 4, 6, already over. So E2, one is electricity. It is under K, clause K, kilowatts. And another E for education. This is learning, under L. And T4, there are 4 T's. One is trading. Trading activity is under E, I suppose, clause E. And toll charges. Toll charges, collection of toll charges, that is under H. Keep doing, you will also remember. Don't start thinking simply the teacher is putting the clauses simply that way, because Rome was not built in a day. Everybody has to work in his own fashion, in his own way, to find out. Objective is that you have to remember and retain. So it is H. And T3 stands for transport of persons, transport of goods and transport of persons. This is also transport and this is also transport. So these are under O and P. Got it? So 2 plus 4, 6 services, 6 plus 8, 14 plus 2. Good morning, barf, E2, T4. How easy it is to remember, tell me. Tell me whether it is easy to remember or not. You should accept, you should admit that it is easy to remember. So what I have discussed now so far about the scheme. Number one, I discussed a scheme of service tax is that you have to see a particular a particular service becomes fully taxable if it is a service provided in taxable territory, not falling under negative list, not falling under mega exemption, not even falling under abatement scheme, then fully taxable. If it is under abatement scheme, it is partly taxable. If it is under mega exemption, it is tax is nil. Taxable, chargeable, but tax liability is nil because of mega exemption by government. Suppose it is in the negative list, it is not chargeable at all. So that is what we have discussed first part today. And in the second part, what we have discussed was what is the negative list. We found that there are 16 services right now, and how to, on what basis government has put them under negative list, what was in the mind of the government, what could have been there. So we have seen the reasons. Sovereign functions, or you can say special status category persons doing some activity, keep them out of, just like RBA, foreign diplomatic missions, etc. They deliberately wanted to keep out. But at the same time, other reasons could be like public interest, to avoid double taxation, and a particular thing which is already under the state list, state subject, central government normally doesn't want to interfere. So double taxation, state subject, public interest, special status, and sovereign functions. These are the major considerations before the central government to put certain services under the negative list. I believe I have made it clear. Okay? So the next question is how to remember them. There are as many as 17 services. One is, of course, deleted. 16 services. Even to remember and to retain successfully, what to do? Good morning, barf, E2, T4. So this I have given you. You can adapt your own way. There is nothing. If you find something better than this to remember, you do that. This is only to remember. Ultimately, this is not going to give you everything that you require. Only simply it gives you an idea. What are the simply namesake? You can only remember these services by name. Nothing else and nothing more. And we have to go into the details. For example, if I talk about agriculture, what are the agriculture, whether all agriculture services are under the negative list, are selected, whether negative list, whether taxable agriculture services have been given, or whether non-taxable agricultural activities have been given in the clause D of section 66D, you have to look into. Whether all activities undertaken by government, received by government, provided by government, services provided by government, services received by government. Scope to understand the scope of all these things, necessarily you have to make a dive into it. You have to go into the details. Then only you will be able to get at the fathom. Okay? So this is a brief idea. Then what we do is we will next go to details of the negative list. We start with, obviously, services provided by the government, right?